Thank you very much, Mr. President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable KRJ Meshoe from the Chamber.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. President, while the ACDP fully supports the transition from coal to clean energy, we nevertheless have two major concerns. The first concern is the impact of the hundreds of thousands of job losses on the families of mine workers and their communities. Renewable energy jobs will not be created overnight, and retrenched workers will not be upskilled for the newly created jobs in that sector. The second concern is how our country will afford to repay concessional loan, as our current debt is almost 4 trillion rands. So my question, Mr. President, is how are coal-dependent regions going to be supported to ensure that they don't become ghost towns, and that what is government is going to do to prevent retrenched workers and their families from ending up in the streets and thereby increasing unemployment? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Our path to a just transition is aimed at precisely addressing what Honorable Meshoe is raising now. As I was saying in my main input of the reply, that it is the situation of workers, situation of our communities in areas where we will have to transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Now, in the first instance, one of the things that, as I said, we are going to look at is how, for instance, Eskom, which through its power stations is the dominant player in particular towns in Mpumalanga and in Limpopo, how Eskom, as it moves towards decommissioning some of those power stations, how those power stations can be repurposed, can be refabricated as to be more useful either through gas or otherwise, or either through other forms of renewable energy. And that is a process that is now being looked at very, very closely. In fact, there is a project plan that is just focusing on that. But it needs to go beyond just the technical part. It needs to look at the human part, the workers, as well as communities. And it also has to look at new opportunities that will come forward with renewable energy future. Because in other countries, we have found that as certain areas of various countries transition from fossil fuel generation to renewables, new forms of sectors begin to emerge. And we believe that that too will emerge with us. We're already thinking about electric cars. We're already thinking about green hydrogen. And that in itself, in terms of the discussions that we're having with the private sector, demonstrates that there are enormous opportunities. As I said, part of the funding will have to go towards reskilling and retraining some of the workers. I participated in an ILO study with the former Prime Minister of Sweden, where we looked at the future of work and how workers can be reskilled, retrained, and upskilled so that they are fit for purpose for the new economies that are coming. And let us not forget that as the world, has evolved, as we've moved from one revolution to another, from industrial revolution, now we are in another revolution. Of course, jobs have been lost, but jobs have also been created. Now, what we want to do is to make sure that we maximize the creation of new jobs, new technologies, new forms of doing things, and new sectors. Now, we, even through our economic reconstruction and recovery plan, we're looking at how
Can you make a plan to come here next week?
how we can capitalize on new sectors of our economy and really boost them up. And we often find that there's new money, there's good money that is willing to come into these new sectors because it creates new markets. So even on the energy side, as we will have to decommission, unfortunately, we'll have to decommission some power stations and coal mines. There is a future that we can look forward to as we recalibrate those power stations and we create new sectors and new economies. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.